think we've got 10-5.
10-5.
Measure passes 10-5. So our next agendized item is AB 1612, which is our energy trailer bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. AB 1612 is the energy trailer bill. I'll go through the specific provisions of this bill by the Department Organization Code just for ease. We'll start with the Energy Commission. This trailer bill would eliminate the requirement that $10 million be transferred annually from the Public Interest Research Development and Demonstration Fund to the Alternative and Renewable Fuel and Vehicle Technology Fund, also known as AB 118, to support the Energy Commission's new long-term workload related to Aliso Canyon. It provides for the continued stable administration of the New Solar Homes Partnership Program by the Energy Commission in the event that the PUC should provide additional funding for that program. It provides funding for the Energy Commission to enforce appliance efficiency standards and authorizes civil penalties for certain violations of those standards. It clarifies that the California Electronic Communications Privacy Act does not limit the authorities of the PUC and Energy Commission in obtaining energy or water supply and consumption information. Within the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, it provides a definition of oil for oil pipeline programs and requires that the state fire marshal to submit a report on the inspection of pipelines and particularly information on 2 pipelines in Santa Barbara. Within the Air Resources Board and OEHA, it allows the Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Administration Fund to be used to support ARB and OEHA activities related to oil and gas operations that may affect air quality, public health, and public safety. And it also supports the work of each entity, in relation to the Aliso Canyon leak. The Department of General Services streamlines the process to complete energy efficiency and water conservation service projects by allowing DGS and other state and local agencies to assign projects to a pre-qualified energy service company with enforceable commitments for the use of skilled and trained workforce. At the PUC, it authorizes the California Council on Science and Technology to conduct a study analyzing regional and gas corporation issues related to minimum heating value and maximum siloxane specifications for biomethane before injecting into common carrier gas pipelines. It repeals the sunset on the Green Tariff Shared Renewables Program. It requires the PUC to report to the legislature on its business process inventory efforts and on options to locate operations and staff outside of the Commission's headquarters in San Francisco. These reports will be due on March 31st of 2017. It removes certain interconnection requirements for new bioenergy projects in the state's high hazard zones of tree mortality. This language was part of the administration's overall tree mortality proposal, and I would note that during the May revise, we had estimated the tree mortality to be around 29 million trees. There's been a recent survey release that has that number at 66 million trees as of last week. It would authorize the PUC to double the amount available for the Self-Generation Incentive Program, which provides incentives for distributed energy generation projects through 2019. And lastly, it extends the net energy metering for fuel cell technology for an additional 5 years and increases the project size from 1 megawatt to 5 megawatts and establishes a total program size of 500 megawatts. With that, we are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. So of all of the issues that you shared with us, all but 2 sound familiar. And we dealt with either in budget subcommittee, and or through the conference committee process.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
You had mentioned the doubling from $80 million to $160 million, the amount of ratepayer subsidy paid to customers who install certain energy storage systems. And you had also made mention of the net energy metering for fuel cells, which is a ratepayer subsidy. How is it that those 2 skipped the budget subcommittee and conference process and lands on us today?
Well, I would note, the vast majority of both the budget bill and the trailer bill have actually already been voted upon and discussed, and we have before us today several items that just took a little bit longer, some lengthier conversations. And I think as part of those conversations within the energy trailer bill, we came to agreement on both the SCHIP program that you referenced as well as the net energy metering. And so in the intervening weeks, we've had ongoing conversations, and they just recently came together. I would say the underpinning of those conversations have been a focus on improving energy efficiency.
But this is the first time the legislators who need to vote on it are seeing it.
That's correct.
That's a challenge. That's a real challenge. And I understand that these are complex issues and they do take sometimes longer than we wish to negotiate. But that also speaks to the fact that they are complex and they are difficult, and that's why we have a legislative process. So, trying to be careful with my words today.
Thank you.
But I do need to communicate some disappointment that these, in my opinion, aren't new issues and could have been put in the January budget, could have been put in the May budget, could have even been dropped into our conference committee, so at least there could have been conversation while these other, as you refer to them, conversations were ongoing. Senator Nielsen.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you and I have agreed an awful lot as this process has moved on, and we are agreeing on a lot as it concludes. I'll probably say more in floor debate, but frankly, this is government at its very worst. It's very worst. It is an embarrassment. And good policy, it is not. And there will be serious problems ensue from this. And it's very difficult to see members put in a position to have to wrestle with this. Members who, like yourself, proceed in good conscience and now are put in a bind. It is a heavy burden. Also brings up some deep-seated anger. And I'll go home today very saddened at what's happened to an institution that I revere and love.
So colleagues, the two items that I've been making reference to are the self-generation incentive program and the net energy metering for fuel cells. So everything else in this trailer bill, again, is implementation language for those items that we've appropriated through the budget. But the limited time we have today, I'd like to spend better understanding, so if we are to cast votes, and that's what we're here to do, we know to the best of our ability what these issues entail, what the motivation for them is. So I'm going to leave that to you, Ms. Costa.
Thank you. I don't know if there is a particular, if you wanted us to start with the net metering or...
Let's start with the doubling of the $80 million to $160 million of ratepayer subsidy for the installation of energy storage systems.
I'd be happy to do that.
Sure, I can talk a little bit about the program. It provides incentives to support existing, new, and emerging distributed energy resources. It provides rebates for qualifying distributed energy systems installed on the customer's side of the utility meter. The qualifying technologies include wind turbines, waste heat to power.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, if you could talk a little slower as
sure.
you're reading.
I'm sure.
Some of us have not seen the language, and it would be nice to, try to really follow.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Senator Hancock, I was going to say the same if you hadn't. So this is
all
all new to us.
Okay. Anyway, the qualifying technologies for the program include wind turbines, waste heat to power technologies, pressure reduction turbines, internal combustion engines, microturbines, gas turbines, fuel cells, and advanced energy storage systems. And the doubling of the incentives from 83 to 166 million will result in costs of about 30 cents a month per ratepayer.
30 cents per month per ratepayer.
And I would just note on this particular program that it is one of the longest running and considered one of the most successful programs in the country. Since 2011, there were 544 completed projects. So it is considered successful and a model nationally.
Thank you. And again, I'm not going to be arguing so much policy with you today as, again, from my point of view, a lack of process. So the motivation here is that the nature of how we produce electricity and how we store electricity, how we use electricity is all in the midst of change. And this gives an incentive for this self-generation program, which is as it is named. Then moving on to the net energy metering for fuel cells. And this extends the sunset.
This extends the sunset and then also increases the cap on these projects from 1 to 5 megawatts. So it would, allow somewhat larger projects to qualify, but also to extend the time period for qualifying. As of March 31st, the cap is 500 megawatts. As of March 31st, about 75 megawatts had been interconnected under this program. So this proposal would allow more time and larger projects.
So the new cap will be 500 megawatts.
When the existing law has a cap for 500 megawatts.
And this will do what to that cap?
It does not change it. It just provides more time and then allows projects of up to 5
As you said, only
megawatts.
75 megawatts of the 500 have actually been realized, and we're going to extend the sunset so we can get closer to
Correct.
that which is already in law allowed.
Right. And these are clean energy projects.
Tell us a little bit more about fuel cells. Is there no natural gas involved in that?
No, actually, I can tell you a little bit about it. According to the Public Utilities Commission, there's a difference between NEM, net energy metering, for renewables and NEM for fuel cells that run off natural gas. The statute in question only applies to fuel cells that run off natural gas, and that sunsets at the end of 2017. So for renewable net energy metering, which is not the subject of this bill, there is a transition, not a sunset, from one set of rules to slightly less generous set of rules when each utility hits a cap of 5% of total peak load served by NEM. Then they move to a different version of NEM 2.0. And for example, San Diego Gas and Electric will make that move this summer, and Pacific Gas and Electric is not too far behind.
You're going to confuse us even more. Tell us about 2.0.
Well, that's not really the subject of this bill. My understanding, it just says it's a less generous set of rules. I could get you more information if you'd like. But that, again, is for the projects that are not the subject of this bill, that are not subject to the sunset. The subject of this bill is for fuel cells that run off natural gas.
So again, just to clarify, the current program has a cap of 500 megawatts.
Correct.
But I'm looking on page 5 of the bill.
Excuse me, I believe the current project size is 1 megawatt, and this would raise it to 5.
No, but the cap overall of the program, 500 megawatts. You said only 75 megawatts has been used-
Interconnected as of March 31st.
Interconnected, okay. But then in the middle of page 5, it says this bill would increase the program cap by authorizing 500 megawatts in addition to the total installed capacity as of January 1st, 2017.
Okay, yeah, the version I'm reading says that there's a statewide limitation now of 500 megawatts. So,
Do you see the language I'm reading from? This is in the Council Digest, page 5.
right, and I'm reading from the actual statute, which shows no change to existing law.
You want to pull out the bill?
Yeah, I've got it right here.
I guess so. Do you see where I am? This bill would increase the program cap.
No, I'm sorry, I don't see where you are.
So starting with Legislative Council's Digest, on the first page of the bill, continues to the second, to the third, to the fourth, I'm on the middle of page 5. This bill would increase the program cap. I know there are different versions of the printing, so give you time to find where we are.
Right, I'm looking at page 37, C1. In addition to the installed capacity as of January reaches a level equal to its proportionate share of its statewide limitation of 500 megawatts. So I think that it sounds like that it's 500 megawatts in addition to what the installed share is. So I think that that's how the cap is being adjusted.
So it's just rebenching,
That,
because you're saying you're telling us the installed capacity right now is 75 megawatts.
correct.
So now we'll have 500 megawatt cap on that. So rather than starting from 0, we're starting at 75.
That sounds correct.
Okay. And I think, just to answer my own question with regard to page 5, I think I wasn't reading carefully enough, because it says specifically, this bill would increase the program cap by authorizing 500 megawatts in addition to the total installed capacity. So they flipped the construct of the sentence, but the idea is that we're just going to rebench to the 75 where we are and then keep the cap of 500 above it.
That sounds correct.
Okay. That's okay. It's good to clarify. Senator Mitchell. Colleagues, any questions? Yes, Senator Nielsen and then Senator Pan.
Could we go a little further in that same section then? How would, and it goes on to say then, as specified for fuel cell electrical generation resources, and would require the PUC to determine if the technology used by the eligible fuel cell customer generator will achieve those standards. By what means are they to speculate? Are there hard scientific ways to measure this? Is this all speculative, or can they really determine?
I believe that the PUC is in the audience. I'd like to defer to them for the details.
That seems pretty vague, and it is a pretty specific mandate. Require the PUC to determine if the technology. That seems to be very specific and hard. I don't know how we're going to determine that. Tough language in the bill, and what does it mean? Well, could we get a clarification on that?
Yeah, we can get clarification for you.
So help is on the way.
Yes,
Okay.
we will definitely.
Colleagues, any other questions before we go to public comment? Yes, of course. Senator Pan.
So, I mean, we're digging through the bill. This is the only time we're hearing these provisions. I guess the question I'd pose is that, is there a reason we have to pass those two provisions today when they haven't had the opportunity to be thoroughly vetted? I mean, basically, it could be something I'm going to be voting for in the future, but I have essentially a few lines describing them. No, if it was before policy committee or before it had been reviewed by the budget sub or something, there would have been a full analysis done. And we're here trying to figure out even what's in the bill right now. And we're waiting for people to show up. Help me out here in terms of the process.
Senator Pan.
And following up on what,
Yes. So I feel your pain, you feel mine, and I've already expressed my frustration specific to these two items. Everything else in this trailer bill, as with the previous trailer bill, have gone through our vetting process. So I'm going to ask Ms. Costa to respond to your question, just because I want you to better understand what it's like for a legislator who has to vote on this to be in this situation.
Yeah, I would note, and we've certainly had many conversations throughout the budget process, that, although the vast majority of the proposals before you are things that have been heard either in conference committee or the subcommittee process, these two have not. I would note that they're both existing programs. And so, so there is, some demonstrated track record with each particular program. I'd note that the trailer bills, as the chair has pointed out, are some of the implementation required based on appropriations within the Budget Act. And lastly, I would say that this particular trailer bill represents, week-long discussions between Senate Democratic leadership and the administration. And this is the agreement that was reached.
Senator Pan?
So I guess but it still doesn't answer the question about, why did it land essentially in the last minute without the appropriate vetting? I mean, right now we're trying to piece together something where there's very limited analysis. As I said, maybe in the end it is something we're going to say, hey, you know what, it's a great idea, we should move forward on. But we're being asked to vote on an item with very little information or detail. You can say it's an existing program. There's a lot of things in the budget that are existing programs. And sometimes we don't agree on things, but then we come to a place, but the fact that it hasn't been heard at all, and this is the very first time, is very disturbing. And right now we're waiting for someone to show up to explain things that are in these items. That I'm very just disturbed about that, along with the chair, and I'm not sure it's appropriate that these items show up in the trailer bill when it hasn't even been. I mean, we have a process where we have subcommittees, we have the full committee, we have conference committee, and so this seems to me that this is not getting the appropriate attention, and we're expected to now vote on this when. I don't know what the implications are.
Senator, again, as I mentioned earlier, I have no, personally, disagreement with the proposals in front of us based on policy. To my understanding of them, I can support them. But I don't mind the administration hearing your or anybody else's concern with how this has happened. And because for all the reasons you've already stated. So I'll be comfortable voting for this. I believe in the policy. I can disagree with the process.
Well, and I would just
that's all
note,
I'm going to say.
with all due respect, that, the bill's been in print since Friday. The Senate called the hearing for today, and the administration is here. So as far as the time elapsed between the bills in print and when the body acts upon it, that's at the discretion of the body.
Senator Mitchell.
My question was going to be of the chair, and hearing your comments, the vice chair's comments, Dr. Pan's expressed concern, and appreciating that the body does have certain discretion. My question was going to be, what are our procedural options with regard to taking action on this trailer bill as a whole, or on the two sections in question? Just really process-wise, what's our timing?
Could I ask you to repeat that? I'm sorry.
Not a problem. In listening to your concerns, the vice chair's concerns, Dr. Pan, and fully acknowledging that it really is up to the discretion of this committee.
It certainly is.
I wondered, really, wanted some clarification from you as our chair. What is the expectation around timing? Is it necessary that we take action on this trailer bill today? Do we also have the opportunity, is it within our discretion to take action on sections of the trailer bill, leaving others with no action as of now. Just if you could provide us with that direction from your perspective.
Certainly. So I'm happy to hear from more members, but from the initial reaction of the committee, I'm going to suggest that we not take this trailer bill up. I don't want to start dissembling it because that can have some additional complexities and consequences. But to use this hearing as an informational hearing, or at least the beginning of an informational hearing, and to speak with the pro tem to see if there is a necessity to conclude the work on this particular trailer bill before we break at the end of the week. There will be other trailer bill work that will continue in August. So I'm not here to make that decision, but I don't think I'm comfortable, and if I may be so bold to say that we're comfortable on this particular trailer bill because of these two additional items to take action today. But again, I'm not arguing the policy. I'm encouraging support in the policy, but I think it is our job incumbent upon us to have answers to our questions and to better understand that policy before we cast our vote. So you're not taking it on my behalf.
And the nature of my question was not to suggest that I had question with the policy either. It was processed,
Oh, of
really
course.
wanting to hear from you as the
Yes.
chair, what options were before us as a body.
Right.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, we are having difficulty locating somebody from the PUC. We are, of course, happy to work with members and staff to provide additional information. I don't know if they're forthcoming right now, but certainly happy to do that going forward.
Okay. Colleagues, before we wrap this trailer bill up, because we have two other items before us and we do need to get to the floor, I want to make sure everyone on the committee has the opportunity to ask any question, express any comment or concern. Senator Pavlik.
Real briefly, I think that's the best way to proceed. We just don't have
Right.
the access to the adequate information, and I was looking around. I'm the only member of the Energy Committee, and there's not that technical expertise that we might rely on each other for.
We're relying upon you, Senator.
And that's the problem. That is the problem, because the Policy Committee never heard the bill. So otherwise, I would feel I could, I understand what the benefits are on this policy, so mine is just in process like you. I can see myself voting for this bill. If we have some additional time, I think that makes sense. But it also makes sense to just sort of put a stake out there that anytime we can, make sure the Legislative Policy Committee adequately vets the bill and not just a few people that may not be engaged in that policy committee. That's always preferable for an outcome.
Well stated. Okay, so then, yes, Senator Pan, and then Senator Morlock, and then I'm going to ask for public comment because this will be considered an informational hearing. This would be opportunity for anyone who has comments to make on this item and on these issues would be today. Senator Pan, Senator
Just
Morlock.
request that we get a much fuller analysis of these two new provisions, which have not been heard before in our binders. Thank you.
So noted. Senator Morlock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was a temporary program that was established in 2000, 2001. It's now 16 years. From what little reading I have done this weekend, it hasn't really worked. It's been a failure. And now we're doubling the fee on all ratepayers, including those 40% in poverty. 30 to 37 cents a month may not be a big deal to some of us, but to a lot of us, it's a big impact. And so I like to encourage programs that work. But if it's not working, why are we throwing more money at it? I'd really like a much better explanation. I appreciate your putting this off. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And Senator, clearly some of us will think the program has been working, that the suggestion to increase from 80 to 160 million does make sense, and there will be those who don't. And that's
I'm open to listen.
right. But I think we all want to know more, and that's why we're not going to vote on it today. So anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? Please line up.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Alex with the California Energy Storage Alliance. Happy to speak to any of the issues of merit here. But I wanted to signal our support for the SGIP. Most aspects of this, we think it's really important. And we've recently done a lot of work to fix and overhaul the SCHIP program, and that was just voted by the CPUC last Thursday to approve these whole new rules for SCHIP. Thank you.
All right, and if you have any printed information you think would benefit the committee, we encourage you to submit it.
Happy to do it.
Thank you.
Julia Levin with the Bioenergy Association of California. We strongly support two items in Assembly Bill 1612. The biomethane injection study requirement, which will make injection of pipeline biogas more cost-effective in California. To your point, Mr. Chairman, that is the source of renewable hydrogen for fuel cells, in addition to low-carbon fuels and baseload and flexible generation renewable power. We also strongly support the budget trailer bill dealing with biomat interconnection for forest biomat, small-scale forest projects in high wildfire hazard zones. This is truly urgent. So whatever you do with other provisions in this Assembly bill, I hope that this provision you will pass today. This is absolutely critical as we're already seeing an explosion of wildfires in California. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Levin.
Mr. Chair and members, Mark Weideman on behalf of Bloom Energy, a clean fuel cell company based in the Silicon Valley. We're here in support of the fuel cell NEM language and happy to distribute any information to committee members to get a better understanding around that language.
The sooner the better. Thank you, Mr. Weideman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Davina Flemings on behalf of Pacific Gas and Electric Company. I just want to note in regards to the NEM fuel cell extension that PG&E, in addition to the other IOUs, have been working with the governor's office and the proponents of the bill, Bloom Energy, to reach a compromise, and we were able to arrive at that late last week. However, there is a provision in the language that needs to be corrected and clarified. In the bill, it references that projects will be eligible up to 5 megawatts. Well, it is going from 1 megawatt to 5 megawatts. However, the place where the language is placed in the bill, it would allow the fuel cell installers to install projects beyond 5 megawatts, and those interconnection costs can get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so that would impose an additional cost shift on our ratepayers. So we have talked to the sponsors and have asked that that language be clarified, because that was not the terms of our agreement, does not reflect the terms of our agreement. So with that change, we would be neutral, but we also like to state that we agree with you, Mr. Chair and committee members, that this should not be, this is a policy matter that should be dealt with in a bill such as AB 1530, which is a bill sitting here in the Senate that deals with this policy matter. So we do support your statement about this not being reflected in a budget.
Thank you, Ms. Levin.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Cindy Howard, Southern California Edison, and I'd like to echo the comments from PG&E. AB 1530 is right now going to be considered by Senate Environmental Quality Committee this week. It is also on these same, related to these same issues. We agree with the language that PG&E mentioned. It's on with regard to limiting to 5 megawatts, as was suggested that this proposal does. It does not. In the bill on page 35, lines 36 and 37, it deletes any cap on the size of the fuel cell, which will have significant implications. To the extent that we're limited to a 5 megawatt cap, I think it makes the program a little bit better. With regard to statements about clean energy, we have some concerns that these natural gas fuel cells are not, have actual higher GHG emissions than the utilities portfolio, and we note that with the 50% RPS, the utility portfolio grid energy is getting cleaner. So that's another concern we have with this policy. We think the appropriate place to consider it is in a policy committee. And with regard to the SCHIP program, the recent CPUC just approved directing 75% of those funds towards storage. And we think that, again, it's another issue that could be fleshed out and vetted in policy committee, and we can have a better discussion on the matter. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members. Paul Mason with Pacific Forest Trust. I also wanted to express my support for the language in the trailer bill relating to the interconnection streamlining for small woody biomass facilities in these high hazard areas. We're dealing with this unprecedented forest die-off in the Sierra, and any way that we can find to help deal with that material is really important. And I would echo what Julia had said, that delaying this until August would actually be an adverse impact in that situation. So,
Good to hear. Thank you, Mr. Mason. All right. So colleagues, we're going to use this as our informational hearing and begin. Oh, one more, I'm sorry. Go right
And
ahead.
Alicia Priego with San Diego Gas and Electric, we also share the same comments needed on the fixes to the language regarding the NEM fuel cell tariff extension, and also share the same concerns as this being rushed through the budget rather than going through the policy committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Costa, with regard to page 35, lines 36, 37, is there a need for clarification in your opinion? If you go to 37, that's the 5 megawatts.
Yeah. The, going back to page 37 where we were before, what the bill says is that only the first 5 megawatts would be eligible for the tariff or the incentive. And I would note at the top of page 37, the bill says that the greenhouse gas emission reduction standard shall ensure that each fuel cell electrical generation resource for these purposes reduces greenhouse gas emissions compared to the electrical grid resources, including the renewable resources.
So you're referring to, I see your last comment in the first paragraph on page 37, but lines 30, 31 on page 37, only the first 5 megawatts of a facility's capacity shall be eligible for the tariff established pursuant to this section.
Correct.
Okay, that sounds clear to me. No questions? We're going to move on to our next item.